What's going on there, YouTube? This is Quinn, that's Snazzy iPhone Guy, and this is the video review of the OnLive gaming system. Now, this is the MicroConsole game system for OnLive. It's a gaming service which is absolutely brilliant. Historically, when you want a game, you drive down to your gaming store and you buy a CD or a cartridge or a game pack, what have you, and then you own that game. It's yours and you can play it. The problem is optical media scratches, you lose it, just crap happens, and so we saw a few years ago, Microsoft and Sony, really, and Nintendo, all of which pretty much failed, tried to get you to download your games instead. You'd pay the same price, but instead of having a physical media, you would download the game directly onto your console's hard drive or memory card or the like. The problem is, downloading an 8 GB game takes quite a bit of time, and it takes quite a bit of storage. So you have to buy bigger hard drives, and those are expensive. And really, that base price of your gaming console rises with the price of games and with the prices of hard drives you have to adapt to those games. So, it never really took off, and that's why, unfortunately, this downloading has not really kicked off when we're still going out to the store to buy stuff. Well, OnLive is trying to get rid of optical or digital media, optical or standardized media, physical media, and they want to move to not what Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo are doing by downloading the entire game, but it's very much like Netflix, but for gaming. You stream the games to your device. So you buy the game, and you own the game, but it's not ever going to touch your OnLive game system. You don't ever download a single megabyte of it. You simply stream the game from OnLive servers, and it's absolutely brilliant. Now, this Tuesday, today, I'm just going to talk about the game system itself and its performance. Next Tuesday, I'm going to talk about the OnLive service as a whole, and I'm also going to talk about the Mac and PC clients, which are free. So again, this is optional. You can buy this $100 console to hook it up to your TV. However, there's also a Mac and a PC application which you can use to stream your OnLive games to your computer. So again, you don't have to go out and buy CDs and DVDs. Now, I do want to touch on game price in this review as well, because if you do buy this console, you do need to consider game price, and it's pretty good. Now, OnLive doesn't have every title that is on the Xbox 360 and the PS3. It just doesn't happen because not all the partners have signed on and published, but they do have a lot of really good games already, and you can view their library by going to onlive.com, which grows wider and wider every day. Now, game prices are a little bit cheaper than going out and buying the disc. I've seen new games that instead of being $59.99, which we're used to seeing with the 360 and the PS3, it's about $49.99. So it's about $10 cheaper. You don't have the physical media, you don't have the disc, it's about $10 cheaper to download or stream the game, rather. Now, there are also a lot of legacy games and older games that are significantly cheaper. But OnLive also has what's called a Play Pass. There's a few different things you can do. Now, there's a 1-day, a 3-day, and a 5-day Play Pass. Again, not all games have the Play Pass available, only a few do. So, we're even getting into a more selective category, and I think that's the OnLive's biggest limitation right now, is just their smallish library. But, again, the catalog's growing every day. But you can rent the game essentially for 1, 3, or 5 days, and you'll see those prices be $1.99, $2.99, $5.99, pretty dang cheap. You pay $6 and you get it for a week. That's a good deal. Now, there's even one better deal, which again goes to even fewer games, and there's only a few games right now, but I think, as we did with Netflix, we'll see a lot of titles start to appear. What you do is it's like Netflix. You pay this OnLive Unlimited Pass. It's a monthly pass, $15 a month, and you can play every game you want for $15 a month. It's pretty dang cool, and that's why OnLive is cool, because it's not just getting rid of optical media, it's actually forcing the publishers to give you a better deal on your games. You pay $15 a month, and you can play essentially any game you want. Now, obviously, when you stop paying that $15 a month, away go your games. But it's very much like Rdio, the Zune Marketplace, Spotify. We're starting to see this with both the movie and the music industry, and I'm really glad that OnLive is pushing it in the game industry as well. However, this is not about their service, it's about the actual console. So let's get into it. This is the OnLive console. It's tiny, as you can see. And again, it's because there's no processors in it. There's not a lot of stuff inside this little guy because it's simply a box that talks to the game in the cloud. It's really brilliant. So you have the OnLive system here. It's very glossy, as you can see, pretty much picks up any fingerprint that comes in contact with it, but it is portable, so you can carry it around with you. It fits in the palm of my hand, which is great. It has a nice design. It's very well built, super solid. Has some rubber stoppers down here on the bottom to stop from sliding on your media center. And this is the console itself. Now, on the front, you're going to see two USB ports. We'll come back to those in just a second. On the back, you're going to see an HDMI input, okay? Now this is to go out to your TV. If you have an older TV that doesn't have HDMI, there is also a $25 dongle that you can get for this, which will go HDMI to component, I believe. But pretty much every new TV has HDMI, and if you don't have a TV with HDMI, you probably don't have a fast enough internet connection to handle the load of the OnLive. So we'll talk about that in just a second as well. You have an AV port, which pretty much isn't used as of now. I mean, it's coming, but it's not really being used yet. You have your audio port. This is a headphone jack out. So if you needed to go to an older stereo or something that didn't accept an HDMI optical audio out, you could go out via 3.5 millimeter. You have an audio out, so you can go optical out, which is nice as well. Of course, you can go audio out via HDMI, and HDMI actually carries 5.1 Dolby Digital surround sound, so that's something to note as well. This is all your audio, basically. And then right here, you have an Ethernet connection. This bad guy does not house a Wi-Fi chip. And most people have complained to me saying, you know, why don't they adapt to Wi-Fi? And the main reason is Wi-Fi simply doesn't give you a fast enough connection to use the OnLive gaming service. You really do need a wired Ethernet connection in order to use this. So there's your wired connection right here. And you know, that's the only way to go. You do need to run a cable down through your media center. It is a little bit of a pain, but it will be worth it when your game performance is much higher than that of Wi-Fi. And then you have a power cord right here. That's all you have on the back. As I stated again in the front, we have two USB ports. Well, one purpose of it is to charge your controllers, which are USB powered, which is nice. You can also wire your controllers if you want. I don't know why you would, because these are ultra low latency and the response is almost instantaneous. However, you can wire them if you so choose. But the main reason this is cool is you can hook up USB keyboards and mice and game sticks and a bunch of other stuff. So this expandability of this console really does evolutionize, because this console is simply a box that talks to the cloud. It doesn't have limitations because the servers don't have limitations. So when they upgrade the OnLive servers, this little thing gets updated because it's not really a console in and of itself. It just talks to the cloud. And so that's why this is really cool, is all the software, everything is pretty much housed on the cloud. Really brilliant, okay? So that's why those USB ports are cool. And then, of course, you have this light here, which will indicate to you if controllers are connected. It's kind of like your syncing button, like you have on the PS3 and the Xbox 360 to connect OnLive controllers to this actual console. So, on the Mac client and the Mac and PC version, you do have a keyboard and mouse that you can use with this OnLive game system. And you can use keyboard and mouse on here if you want. You can either hook up your, this is great because there's Bluetooth on board the OnLive, so you can actually hook up a Bluetooth keyboard or mouse to this unit and use that instead of this gamepad, which is pretty interesting. But it does come with a controller. I actually prefer console style gaming. Call me old or call me a noob, I don't care. I like having a physical controller rather than having to use a keyboard and mouse. But this controller, as you can see, is very reminiscent of both the PS3 and the Xbox 360. It's kind of a mesh between the two, and it's pretty interesting. You have your buttons here, A, B, X, Y, exactly the same as the Xbox 360. The buttons are super easy to push. They're super responsive. I think this is actually a better, well-built controller than the 360 and the PS3. I'm super impressed by the quality of this controller, and OnLive did a great job. Before we talk about the rest of it, I do want to mention this battery pack on the back here. You can use two AA connectors right here, which is, you know, pretty much standard on the 360, or you can use a rechargeable lithium polymer. Actually, I lied. It's a nickel metal hydride 4200 milliamp hour pack, which will go for about 36 hours of straight gaming, which is pretty nice to see as well. So, I mean, you just take this, you pop it in, and you are good to go. And then the same as the batteries, if you don't want to charge it or something of the like, you just pull this pack off and you can throw the good old AA pack in and you are good to go. Okay, so those attach nicely just like the 360. The grip of the controller itself is really nice. It's a little bit weird in the first because it feels like a PS3 controller in the hand, but it looks and operates like a 360 controller, which is a little bit obscure. Of course, you'll see that the analog stick is right here, which again is another indication that it's more PS3 like, but I really do think, other than this one switcheroo here, it is basically an Xbox 360 controller, and they did a really good job at emulating it. So again, these buttons are really easily pushable. You have your D-pad right here, which unfortunately they're not single buttons. They are a rocker D-pad style, so I don't think that the quality in these is quite as good as they could be. However, the analog sticks, which most games use now, are absolutely brilliant. I like the analog sticks more on this controller than both the PS3 and the 360 combined. It has the dimples, as you can see, of the 360. They're not like extroverted like the PS3, so there is a little bit of a reservoir for your finger to stick in there. But they also move as far as the PS3 controllers. The 360, you're kind of limited, and so I don't think that it's as responsive. And the PS3 is the same. I mean, you get a lot more distance. The diameter of the stick is a lot further. However, that dimple kind of makes your finger roll off. And this takes the actual trigger of the PS3, which I like, and puts it in the housing of the PS3, which I like. So I do think that this analog stick setup is the best of both worlds. You do have that secondary click, the R3 and L3, as pretty much both controllers call it. You have a start and select button, or rather start and select. And then you have the OnLive button, which will access the OnLive menu, much like the 360 dashboard or the PS3 Blade interface. You have 4 LEDs here. This is flashing right now because it's telling me it can't find a controller or a console that's on. However, it will indicate to you which number you are, because this device can hook up to 4 OnLive controllers, which is nice. On the bottom here you have, almost dropped it. On the bottom here you have some multimedia keys: play, fast forward, reverse. Nice when you're viewing like some of your friends' brag clips, which we'll talk about next week, and a couple other things. This button I have yet to find out what it does, because I haven't actually found anything of purpose for it. I've tried pretty much every little menu on the OnLive, and this really doesn't do anything yet, I don't think. And then this is a brag clip button. So if you do something really cool in a game, you press this button and it'll save, I think, the last 30 seconds on your profile, which you can share with your friends and all that stuff. And we're going to talk about the social aspects and the actual service of OnLive next week. So be sure to tune into that, because that will be an actual demo of gaming, which will be a little bit more accurate representation than this video itself. So on the top of the controller, this is probably the weakest part other than the D-pad, which I mentioned earlier. These triggers I'm not entirely fond of. I've gotten used to them. They're tolerable now, but I still don't prefer them. You have your right and left bumpers, which are very much like the the Xbox 360. I like them. They're very resistive. They kick back after you push them. They're pretty good. These triggers I'm not a huge fan of, mainly because they're really hard to push. First of all, unlike the Xbox 360, they don't travel a long distance. They're like the PS3, so I do like that, but they're just too hard to push down in order to get a really accurate resistive feedback, and they're kind of mushy, so I'm not huge on that. They kick back fast, but they're hard to push down, and that's why I don't think that this is super great, just because it takes too much work to actually push the trigger down. So I do like that there's a short distance to be traveled before it activates, unlike the 360, which is quite a ways. But the 360 did allow me to do faster triggers simply because there wasn't a lot of resistance there, so it was pretty easy to shoot through that long distance. This is a short distance with pretty high resistance, and I just found this to be a little bit uncomfortable when I was trying to pull these triggers. But other than that, the controller is very nice. I like it just as well as my PS3 controller, and almost as much as my 360 controller. Again, these analog sticks are absolutely brilliant, and OnLive nailed them head on. I want to talk about the other accessories you're going to find in here, and then I'll talk about the actual console performance. You're going to find an Ethernet to Ethernet cable to hook up if you don't have one already. Again, your HDMI cable. Nice that they include an HDMI cable. You're going to find a USB to micro USB to charge the controller if you have the rechargeable battery pack inside, or you can play the controller wired. Again, not necessary because this is super low latency and does a really good job at talking to the console. 2 Duracell batteries along with this secondary, I guess the secondary battery pack's in here, the secondary battery pack, and then you're going to have a wall charger, or rather an AC outlet for the console itself. So pretty dang cool. This is a great system. It's great because it's so small, it's so cheap, and it's so affordable to get into the gaming market. You get a controller and a console for $100 versus $250, $350, you know, those super high-end prices we're used to paying. That being said, you do need a relatively fast connection. The OnLive is promising a lot of great features in the future, like Bluetooth voice chat and, you know, a couple other things that are coming in the future. Bluetooth voice chat is basically the main one, which is cool because you can hook up a Bluetooth headset. You don't need to wire one like you do on the 360. It's like the PS3 where you just hook up a Bluetooth headset, any Bluetooth headset, and it works with the OnLive. Again, it's cool because you can hook up Bluetooth keyboards and Bluetooth mice to this little guy. Really brilliant. And you know, I want to talk about the internet connection and the internet speed you need to have. They recommend 5 megabits a second down for 40-inch TVs, 4 megabits a second down for 30 to 40-inch TVs, and for TVs smaller than 30 inches, you only need 3 megabits per second down. I can tell you right now, I get about 18 down, okay? And I also have about a 60-inch TV. So I'm getting 18 down, nothing else is on the network. 18 down, my games are still a little tiny bit laggy. They're not bad, and when it goes down to the lower resolution, about 720p quality, maybe even a little bit less, it's really fast. But when it's streaming full 1080p or 1080i really, it's quite a bit slower. So when you're sub HD, I would say that their recommended megabits per second down is accurate, but when you're trying to stream in HD and play the game in HD, you do need a pretty dang fast connection, which is why this OnLive, I think, is a little bit of ahead of its time, is there's simply not enough people that have fast enough connections to make this thing worth it. If you are getting a minimum, I would say, I'm going to go further than their recommendations. Their recommendations say don't get this if you have less than 5 megabits a second down. I would say don't get this unless you have about 8 to 10. Okay. It's a great console. It does really well. Again, next Tuesday, actually, we're going to talk about the service and the games, and I'm going to give you a little bit of gameplay, and you can see what I'm talking about. But unless you have about 8 megabits a second down, I couldn't recommend this OnLive gaming system. But it is very well run. The controller, all the hardware is absolutely excellent for $100. And the question is, does the game service, the OnLive, and the titles hold up to it? And we'll reveal that unto you next Tuesday. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, rate, comment, and as always, stay snazzy. See you later, folks.